Welcome to the MrpTech podcast. This is episode 17. My name is Matt. This is a weekly podcast where I review multiple platforms and technologies to see which works best for me in order to help you. In today's episode, I'm going to take a look at Apple Pay, how secure it is, how it works, and we're going to take a deep dive into the mobile payment system. Before I get into that, though, I'd like to continue my discussion from last week about Ardour, the audio workstation. Last week, I mentioned that I am switching from my PreSonus recording equipment to open source recording equipment for the purposes of this podcast, in hopes of switching to open source software full-time with all of my recording needs. This has been sort of an experiment in the way that I normally have a workflow for recording. And my thoughts using Ardour is it actually saved me a bunch of time because I was switching from two different versions of PreSonus software, Capture and Studio One, importing and exporting, and then going to Audacity, and then exporting again to my final product. Ardour takes a little longer to process all of the audio when recording, but even with that, I am still able to save myself a little time. And I'm going to continue using Ardour as my primary recording software for the next few weeks, still learning the ins and outs of the software itself. And I have a feeling as time goes on, I'm going to learn more and more about it, and I'm going to become more familiar with the plugins. And my goal is eventually, hopefully I won't need any other software other than Ardour within the next month or so. So right now, with last week's episode, what I did is I recorded in Ardour, and I still exported into Audacity, and then made the edits that I need, and my final recorded product at the very end. And after listening to the final recording, I actually thought there was an increase of the quality of the recording. I'm not sure why that is. It may have been the recording environment that I'm in. It may have been a couple of extra things that I did, but that's a good thing. If it was comparable to the PreSonus recording software, then that's great. And my ears, from what I heard, is just happens to be a little bit better than what I was using. So that's what I'm excited about, is to keep using this software and to keep learning and hopefully keep improving the overall sound quality of this recording. So I'd like some feedback. If you've listened to some older episodes and you are now listening to this episode or the last week's episode, send me some feedback on what you think could be improved as far as the audio recording. If you're somebody who's familiar with that, I would really greatly appreciate it. All right, and now that I've spent just a little bit of time talking about last week's project, what I really would like to get into today is something that I probably some of you have tried to use if you're an iPhone user, and I want to get into Apple Pay, what it is, how do you use it, is it secure to use? Because a lot of us we have these smartphones that are feature phones that expand and make life easier for us, but a lot of times we sacrifice easy for security. So we don't understand how things work. We don't understand how things are implemented. So I took a little bit of time and I read up on Apple Pay. Now, Apple Pay is something that I have not used, and we'll see by the end of this episode whether or not it's something that I'm willing to use. So let's get into it. So Apple Pay is a payment system that is sort of designed to change the way that you shop. So Apple wants you to move from using traditional credit cards to using an automated system on your phone. So it is a technology and a feature on the latest iPhones and Apple Watches. Basically, it's going to take your credit card, take the information from your credit card, and it's going to put it into an app so that you can use it at any store that you want that is accepting Apple Pay. Now, Apple Pay has been around for a couple of years now, and it has expanded over the last few years, and they're planning on expanding over the next few years. It's only available on the iPhone 6 or later. It's available on some iPads, and with the Apple Watches, you can use iPhone 5 or later if you have an Apple Watch paired with your phone. So most major credit card companies are supporters of Apple Pay. The credit card companies like Visa and MasterCard, American Express, and all of the other financial institutions that revolve around those companies, your cards will work with Apple Pay. Another feature that I didn't know about until I did some research that federal payment cards also work with Apple Pay. And that's not necessarily a big deal for a lot of us, but for some of us like veterans, that's going to be a bigger deal because they're paid through debit cards. And it's definitely worth making a point here that because the government does this, and they're sort of admitting and they're sort of showing that Apple Pay is secure enough for them to be able to use in government functions. And so therefore, in many respects, Apple Pay should grow and become a global payment source for many different countries around the world. So that should say something right there about Apple Pay. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take out the Apple Wallet app. And when you do this, basically you're going to take a picture of your credit card. Now that picture is not stored on your phone at all. It's just getting the information off of your credit card. You can also pull in your credit card from iTunes and just enter the card security code. That's another way to get your credit card on your Apple Wallet app. But basically your bank is going to verify the information for you so that you can start using Apple Pay. So Apple includes a development platform so that developers for apps can integrate Apple Pay into their apps, and you can use Apple Pay with numerous apps. And basically you're just going to use the Touch ID function on your phone to verify that you want to make a payment. You can also use your PIN code or your passcode for your phone as well. It's using the near field communication antenna on your phone. That's called NFC. And we're going to talk about NFC in just a little bit. But basically how it works is you're going to hold your iPhone near a credit card machine, and basically you don't even need to make contact with it. You open your Apple app, you open the Wallet app, and you make your payment, and you verify using Touch ID. You'll hear a couple of beeps to show that everything has been confirmed, and it's actually much quicker than even using a credit card. But with doing that, how secure is it? So the first thing that we need to talk about when we're getting into security is, where is that information stored? Apple has said that it doesn't save your transaction information on your credit card. They have said that they don't store transaction information on its servers. They don't store your credit card numbers. They do keep some information, but it's not private information. So what they do, instead of using your credit card number, they're going to create a token anytime that you want to make a purchase. So the information from your credit card turns into a token, and that token is sent to the person that you are purchasing something from. So that token has no personal information in it. It also creates a device account number for each one of your cards. So it's not using your credit card number, it's using a device account number. That number is encrypted and is securely stored in a chip on your iPhone. It is not stored in a Apple server somewhere. So that token is purchased and passed on to a retailer or a merchant, and therefore they're never going to get direct access to your credit card details. So no personal information is used when using Apple Pay. Now the next thing you might ask is, what if you lose your phone or your watch or whatever you're using Apple Pay with? The easiest answer to that is something that has been a feature for iPhones or iOS devices for the last few years. It's called Find My iPhone. If you lose your phone, you're able to disable your phone remotely, and you can wipe your device, you can erase your device, and when you put your iPhone in lost mode, this prevents anything and anyone from accessing your content, including Apple Pay or the Apple Wallet app. So if you have that feature enabled, you can sort of live with ease that if you lose your phone, you can remotely wipe your phone from all your personal information. So some of the pros of Apple Pay, you're going to have simpler payments. You're going to spend less time in line. You don't need to take your credit card out where other people might see your credit card number or steal your credit card number. You don't even need your credit card physically there. It is very secure. It's less likely that you're going to have your credit card number stolen because Apple's not using that credit card number. You get much more privacy when you use Apple Pay. Apple does not track shopper transactions or store the data. This gives you a little bit more privacy when you're purchasing things in stores, wherever you are. The use of the device account numbers makes your transactions even more private with the merchants because they don't see your name, they don't see your address, and various things like that. So the other thing that's great about Apple Pay is if you are like me and you are part of the Target breach where your credit card was stolen, this sort of eliminates the use of the credit card as the primary function of your purchase. So what you're doing is, because they don't get your credit card numbers, that means that when these breaches happen, your credit card numbers are going to be safe. So when you think about those things, it is a better experience. And right now there are no extra fees for using Apple Pay. The credit card companies are sharing transaction fees with Apple, and that may change in the future, but for right now, that's a good thing. There are a few cons for using Apple Pay. Right now, it's hit or miss whether or not a store is going to support Apple Pay. The growth has been improving since Apple released Apple Pay a couple of years ago, and it's going to keep doing that. The new credit card machines have it built in, and it's just going to keep improving over time, but it's still a slow process. Right now, it's pretty stable, but what happens if millions and millions more people start using Apple Pay? Is it going to be just as quick? We don't know. My guess would be that it probably will be just as quick. And so right now, the pros sort of outweigh the cons about using something like Apple Pay. So if you're still looking for some more information on the security portion of Apple Pay, there is a support page on apple.com that shows you everything that you need to know about Apple Pay. And I did read through all the information, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was expecting that it was secure, but I was expecting things like, user information being tracked and that type of stuff, which they're claiming not to do that. I like the whole process from setting up your credit card, how they verify your credit card with a bank. It's all done with encryption, so everything is safe and secure as it's traveling, to be verified across the internet. Everything is encrypted, makes it much more difficult for anything to happen to your credit card numbers as that information is being verified. The one thing I wasn't sure about was NFC and how secure NFC was, because that's something that is not an Apple created infrastructure. So NFC is near field communication, and basically it's a form of radio frequency identification, or RFID. It's a chip on your phone that generates a small electromagnetic field, and that field communicates with a reader or a tag, like on a poster or a shelf, and it's a way for your phone to communicate between other devices. So in some cases, it's used for payment systems, but it's not just for payment systems. It's used for sharing information between friends or business card data by touching smartphones. It's a proof of payment for subway or plane tickets or concert tickets. And it makes your device more feature rich. You can unlock your car using NFC. You can get into your office, clocking in and out of work you can do. And you can also replace like barcodes when you're shopping. And so NFC is a relatively new technology. It's been around for a few years now. And so what are the security threats of NFC? So the biggest threat is having your smartphone stolen and then used for purchasing items. So again, with that compared to Apple, if you have Find My iPhone on, you never know if your phone's going to get stolen. But if it does, you have the ability to wipe all of your information remotely. Now, there's also the possibility of an NFC receptor, like criminals could create a device to receive NFC transmissions. And once again, it's not really ideal in this situation because when you're using Apple Pay, you have to use your Touch ID on your phone or put in a PIN number. So that's going to make the transaction more secure. NFC signals are directional, so it's not like it's being broadcast in every single direction. It basically means it's making a straight line between devices. So that's another way NFC makes eavesdropping unlikely. And the other threat about using something like NFC is if you're not careful and you have malware on your phone, which how many of you put antivirus on your phone? There are, if you have malware on your phone, then it's going to weaken this whole security setup that happens to be, in most cases, very secure. So that's something you'd have to check. Maybe you would consider putting some sort of antivirus software on your phone that checks the apps that you download. So the best thing to do if you're using NFC is to make sure that you have a password on your phone and that you are sort of smart about all of the things that I've mentioned so far. Have Find My iPhone turned on and in place on your devices. Make sure that you have a password. These are just everyday security things that you should have on all of your devices. So after doing the research about Apple Pay, I'm a little more convinced that this is something that is usable. It is safe to use, relatively safe. I would say more safe than just using a standard credit card online. And right now it's only limited to mobile purchases online. But that is going to change, I believe. So you'll be able to use Apple Pay on computers and desktop devices in the future. So I think after reading up on this, it's something that I'm going to try out, see how it works, and next week I will probably come back and talk just briefly, a little bit more about Apple Pay and the use in my world. So if you have questions about Apple Pay and I didn't cover something about Apple Pay, send me some feedback. Ask a question. I'd be happy to answer it. You could also give me a review on iTunes, give me a 5-star review, and help me get more listeners. The best way that you can help me out, because I enjoy doing this, is if you know somebody who listens to other podcasts, recommend my show if they're interested in technology, and just get the word out for me. That's the only thing I can ask for doing all of these things week after week. If you enjoy what I'm putting out, it may not be your topic every single week, but if you enjoy once in a while something that I cover, help me get more listeners. You can subscribe to my RSS feed using any podcatcher. And also, you can check out my Facebook page. It's facebook.com/MrpTechReviews. And you can email me, mrptechreviews@gmail.com. I'd love some feedback and ideas for future shows. So send them my way. And I hope you enjoyed this week, and we'll see you next time.